Hello friends, so welcome to another video of Mule for Learn from D. This is the third video of the proxy load balancing series, and if you remember, in the part 1 we tried to configure Apache HTTP Server for our proxy and load balancing, and we tried to use that to call our Mule application that we were running inside the Mule runtime, that is running inside the Anypoint Studio, that is the internal one, right? And in the part 2 we tried to go more realistic, and instead of using the internal standalone runtime, I mean internal Mule runtime that is there in the Anypoint Studio, we tried to use the standalone runtime server, and we tried to use that with Apache HTTP server, and we tested that part. So today, as we discussed earlier, so this is the third video, and here, as we already discussed earlier, that we are going to use multiple computers. So in the last video, in the part 2, we used single computer, and there we actually ran two instances of Mule standalone runtime server, and if you follow that video, then you will get more details about that configuration. Okay, so before proceeding with this video, I would request, if you have not gone through the part 1 and part 2, so I would request please go through those two videos, and then probably come to this one, so that you can get more idea about what we are going to do here. All right, so that is good. Now if you see in this diagram, we have done couple of changes. So in the left part, if you see the Postman and Apache HTTP server, everything is looking as is, which was there earlier. However, here if you follow my cursor, instead of single computer, we are using multiple computers. So let me tell you that in this particular video, we are going to use two different computers, and for that, if you see, those two are having different IPs. So actually this one would be different IP. So let me just show you this one would be a corrected one. So 1 minute, I'll just correct this one. Okay, so now I think we are good. So here we had same IP, but because we are about to use two different computers, so we must be having two different IPs. So if you see 192.168.0.105, this is the server A, server computer A, and where we will be running the instance of Mule standalone runtime server A. So that one we will running in the server computer A, okay, which has the IP address 192.168.0.105. Now similarly, we have another computer here. So basically I'm using two different personal laptops I'm using here for this purpose. So if you see the another laptop which I'm going to use, so that I am considering that as server computer B, and there we will run another instance of the Mule standalone runtime server, and we will call it as Mule standalone runtime server B. And for that we have the 192.168.0.104, that is the IP address. So if you see, two computers we are using, and both are having different IP addresses. So that is more realistic, and in real life scenario, we used to have this kind of configurations, right? So we don't run the all multiple instances of the Mule runtime in the same computer. We instead run them in different computers. So there is an advantage, because let's say there is something wrong in the computer A, server computer A. So in that case, we have another computer that is running, and that particular computer will serve the requests which will come to that particular URL, this URL, right? Because we are doing load balancing. So in any case, if the server computer A is down, in that case everything would be forwarded to the this path, that is server computer B. So that is also another advantage of using two different computers, because and let me tell you that most of the time it is like two servers are located in two different geographical location. Let's say some one server is in India, and another server could be USA. So in that case, in case any server which is situated in a different location, in that if that server is having some issue, probably some other server can serve the requests, and by doing that the business won't be hampered, and it can continue run the business. Okay, so that is the whole purpose we actually uh, use whenever it is like disaster recovery and proxy and load balancing. Okay, so this example which I have just given you, it is more inclined to the disaster recovery section. So here in this video we are also going to cover disaster recovery. So if you see, for the disaster recovery, we have configured a cluster. I mean, we are going to configure a cluster, and there we will include our Mule standalone runtime and Mule standalone runtime server A and Mule standalone runtime server B. We are going to add them to a cluster, so that in case any one of the server is somehow it is stopped or it is down, in that case other server can be used for serving the requests. Okay, and for this one we are going to use Anypoint platform that is provided by MuleSoft, and in the Anypoint platform we have the runtime manager, and using that runtime manager we are going to create the cluster, and that will act as a disaster recovery setup for us. Okay, so that is what we are going to do today. And here I also have given the cluster name, that is CLSTR dev. So this is the one we are going to do, and for this one let me tell you that this is the IP address for this system, 192.168.0.105, so which I have already mentioned it here. And similarly we have another laptop, I mean another computer, where we have this IP address, so I'll definitely show that one to you. Okay, so now what we will do is we'll go to our Anypoint platform. That is we already created this for the in one of the video I have shown you like how we can create the Anypoint platform account. In this case we are going to use European region, that is EU1, and if you see, this is the link. So here I have already, and this is, if you see, this is the organization, it is already showing DigiWorld. And for this case what we will do is okay, so before that we already have the Anypoint platform, we have already logged in, so we need to go to runtime manager. So I'll just right click on it and open a new this one new tab, and by doing that it will open the runtime Anypoint runtime manager. And there, if you see, this is the first time I'm opening the runtime manager, so it is asking me to choose any default environment. So I'll just select sandbox, and for your case you can select based on your preference. So in the runtime manager, if you see, we have the server section. So these are basically some new things that has come, Flex Gateway. So if you are interested, please comment in the section. I can prepare another video on the Flex Gateway, but for now I'll just click on got it. And now if you see, in the runtime manager we have the server section, so just we need to click on the server section, and here is the one that is where we will try to add our servers. So basically in our picture, the Anypoint platform, then there is runtime manager that will act as a control plane. Okay, so for the control plane, it will act as a control plane, and where from we will control our servers. And in the server, if we want to deploy the application, that is also we can do from here in the control plane. Okay, so we'll definitely do that. So for that, what we will do is here, if you see, we already had inside Mule servers, we already had instance 1, instance 2, but for today's video we are not going to use this 2, so we'll just remove this, and just I'll delete it. So delete. And once I do that, then let's go to this one, and we will try to take this, and here what we will do is we'll create a folder here, and we will say server A, right? this is the computer that is where we are going to run server A. So this is the one we are trying to configure. This is the one we are trying to configure. Okay. All right. So now let's go to our folder, and here inside server A, I'll just paste whatever we copied. Okay, so let me copy once again. So I'll just copy it, copy, and then inside Mule server, inside server A, I'll just paste it. Now I will do extract. So I'll just extract it using 7-zip, and it is extraction is done. Now I will remove this one because I don't need this anymore. So I'll also take all the files from here, Control A, and I'll say I'll do Control X. So I'll cut it from here and I'll directly paste it inside the server A. Okay. So that is what I will do, and inside this folder now we don't have anything, so I'll just remove this folder. So this is the way I prefer to configure the server, so that I don't get confused about which one is referring to which server. So if you see, now we have a Mule server, that is we are calling it as server A, and that one is having all these folders, right? Similar thing we need to do for our this one for our server B. So let's do that. Okay, so if you see here, this is another computer where we are trying to configure the server B. See the path we have kept it similar, like the server computer A. Similar way we have provided this DigiWorld learning example, proxy and load balancing, and Mule server, and then inside that we have server B. Okay, so this folder I haven't done anything here. We are going to set up that part, so we'll do that. So before that, let me show you the IP address. So for this computer, it is, if you see, 192.168.0.104. This is the IP address, and let me tell you that these two computers should be in the same network before we actually configure the disaster recovery this configuration. So that because we are not only trying to achieve disaster recovery, we are also trying to do load balancing using the Apache HTTP server. So for that one, it is also required that these two computers should be in the same network. Otherwise they won't be able to the our HTTP server won't be able to send the request to the another computer, which is I mean, if that computer is outside of the network, so in that case it won't be able to connect. So definitely a networking part comes into picture in the enterprise setup. Always there is a different dedicated networking team. They are responsible for configuring this thing, but here because we are trying to concentrate more on the disaster recovery, proxy and load balancing setup, that's the reason we are not going to go deep in the networking setup. So we are just going to use the basic setup that is we already have in case of our home network. So basically, let me tell you that for me it is like I have a broadband and I have a router, and so my broadband provider has given me the broadband and internet connection, and for that they have provided me a fiber optics cable that is attached to my router, and from there I have a home network inside the router network. Okay, so this is basically, if you see the default gateway here, this is basically my router IP address. So after my router, my computers are connecting to my router, and by that way it is like all my computers which are connected to that router, they are in the same network. Okay, so that is the thing. And for your case, if you are trying to test it, you can definitely ping one computer from another computer. So that is another way to check the network. So all right, so let's move back to computer A so that we can configure, and obviously we'll come back to here. Okay, so now let's go to our Anypoint runtime manager, and here we just need to click on add server. So when we say add server, it is asking us to give some server name. So we'll say server A. Okay, so that is what we would like to give. Let's see if we can give capital. Well, let's keep it small for now, because we are just interested in server name. So server A is the first one. So for that, if you see, this is the command we need to run. So what it is saying, next execute this command from the server's bin directory. Okay, right? Okay, so you need to go to the bin directory and you need to run it there. So I'll just click on copy command. So copy command, it says copied. Now I will go to server A, and this is the server A folder, and here inside bin I'll just select this and I'll type cmd, and then once the command prompt is open, uh, okay, so the command prompt is open now. So now I will just, okay, so here if you see this dot slash is there, so that part is not required for us, because we are using Windows system. So in that case we don't need this dot slash, we will just remove it. Okay, so AMC setup. And let me tell you that this AMC setup is nothing but it is referring to this particular file. If you see inside bin, we already have this particular batch file. So this is the file it is trying to execute from here. And that is the reason, because we are using Windows, so we don't need that slash and that dot slash, we don't need it. So I'll just I have removed that, and I'll just press enter. So once I do that, if you see, it is saying that Mule sending sign request to Anypoint Management Center. Okay, so AMC, if you see, it is AMC means Anypoint Management Center. So here it is saying Mule agent configuration configured successfully, right? So now let's go to our this one. And if you see, oh, wow, that is great, right? Server A is now added to our Mule runtime manager. So similar way, what we will do is we would like to add the server B as well. So let's do that. Okay, so for adding the server B, let's what we need to do is we will write server hyphen B. So this is the one. In that case, if you see, it is giving us this particular command. So let's copy this. And let me tell you that though I have copied it, but I need to manually type it in another computer. So for that, I mean this computer I'm talking about. So for this one, I need to manually type there, because I have already logged in from this one. So probably if I log in from there, then there would be, I mean, probably this one would be logged out. Okay, so I'll just type this one in that computer. So I'll just do that. I'll just paste it. Okay, so now I'll just right click on this one and I'll extract with 7-zip. So I actually prefer to extract with 7-zip, because I have observed sometime if we just use the default extract all option in the Windows, sometimes some files gets corrupted. So that's the reason I prefer the 7-zip most of the time. And okay, so similarly now because we copied this one, now we don't need it, so I'll just delete this one. So I'll just select this one and I'll delete it. So it is now let's go to this one, and similar way we will select Control A, Control X, and then we'll directly paste all those inside inside the server B, right? And we'll definitely click outside, and then we'll just select this one and we'll select delete. Okay, so now our server B and server A both are ready, and we would like to add them to our Anypoint runtime manager. So let's do that. Okay, so now the similar thing what we will do is we will go to this one. Um, for server B also, if you see, we are in the bin folder, and here also we need to open the cmd, and then once it opens it, so we need to run the command that we get from the this one from our runtime manager, from that runtime manager portal, right? So let's do that. 66597 server B, yeah, that is looking correct. So I'll just select, I'll just press enter. So let's do that. And if you see, it says creating, okay, that is good. Now if you see sending sign request, so mule agent configured successfully, right? So the similar thing we already, so now we have our server A and server B already added to the Anypoint runtime manager. Okay, let's go back to our Anypoint platform now, and we will continue from there. Okay, so if you see, if I just close this one, if you see, now we have our server A and server B already added to our runtime manager. And now what I will do is I will just go to this one. Okay, we already opened the command prompt for this one. So here we will just write mule and just mule. Okay, we will just type mule, and inside mule, let me tell you that we have already mule batch file. So if we just type mule and then press enter, it will just start the server. Okay, so let's do that. And once we do that, if you see, it is saying mule host, and similar thing I will do from the this one from our server B. So that will also do. um, let's if you see our server has started, server 1, and if you see, it is already reflected there saying that server 1 is running, server A is running, right? So let's start the server B also. Okay, so if you see, we have already started server A. Now we want to start server B. So let's type mule and then press enter. So once we do that, it should start the server, and in our mule runtime, we should see that the server should be showing as running. Okay, so let's wait for some time. Yeah. Okay, so that is it now. So all right, so if you see now, we have both of our servers are running. So server A and server B, both the servers are running now. So if we want to deploy the app, um, at this point of time, if we want to deploy any app, we have different options. We need to go to our server, and then from there, inside that server, we need to actually okay, so whenever we want to go to we want to deploy the application, so we need to go to application and say deploy application. And once we select the jar, we need to give a name, application name. And here inside this, we need to select hybrid, because inside hybrid, we will be able to see our server A and server B. So let's say we want to deploy to server A. So for that one, we need to select server A, and obviously we need to provide a name of the application. And then what we need to do is, okay, so let me just select server A, and what we need to do is we need to choose the file. So once we do that, it will give, once we click on this choose file, it will give us one option, that is upload file. So once we click on this, it will ask us to give the location of our jar file, that I mean the deployable jar file. If you remember, we already done that for earlier video. So we need to go to our Mule project, and just we need to select export. And once we do that, in the export, it will give us this option. So from here, we need to just export our jar file. So, and doing that, it will generate a jar file to the mentioned folder. So for that, we already did that part. So if you see inside this one, we already have this jar file which we already exported earlier. So for this one, let us check what is the port number for this particular application that we have just exported. So we'll just open it, and if you remember, this is the file for our mule flow. So let me show you. So this is the file for our mule flow. So in the jar file also we can see that. So I'll just right click on it, and just I'll say view. So once it opens, we can see the port number, so that is 8081. And for this one, it is by default it refers to the local host wherever we are deploying this application. It will take the IP, or it will refer to that particular host. So if we are deploying this application to server A, then it will consider that server A host as its host. So similar way, if you want to deploy this application to server B, then this part will also take the host name for the server B, right? Okay, so that is it. Now let's go back to our Anypoint platform, and here if we want to individually deploy them, but that way we can do. But today our purpose is to do the create the cluster, right? So if you see, now we already have added our servers, so Mule standalone runtime server A and Mule standalone runtime server B. Both of them we have added, and we know that the server A, this standalone runtime server A is running on IP 192.168.0.105, and the server B is running on 192.168.0.104. And because these two computers are different, that is the reason we don't need to change the port number, because the port number is available, right? When in the earlier video, when we were deploying, I mean, we started two instances of Mule runtime on the same computer. That time the application which was running in server instance 1, in that instance already occupied the 8081, and that's the reason we had to update the port number for the application that we were planning to deploy to server B, because both of them, those servers, were running in the same computer, so the port number was not available for the other instance. But because for this one we are using multiple computers, and because these two computers are different, so the port number conflict is not there. So port number we can keep it as is. I mean, the same port number we can use for this one, right? Okay, so now let's go ahead and create a cluster, because that is the one we are going to configure to enable disaster recovery for our setup. So for disaster recovery, let's go to servers, and here if you see, we have server A and server B are running. Now we will go to create cluster, and once we do that, we will select see, by default it is mentioned, it is selected the unicast. So we will just select unicast only for now, because we don't want to change anything there. So here is our cluster name, CLSTR dev. So we'll just go here and we will mention CLSTR dev. So this is our cluster, and we'll just check this too. And for this one, it is, if you see, it has already taken the IP address. So in case you want to give some other IP address, you can do that. Okay, so now what we will do is we will keep other settings as is, and we will just select create cluster. So now you need to see this message: servers will be restarted and all agent plugin configs will be overwritten when the cluster is created. So we will just go ahead with this, and we'll create cluster. So if you see, server cluster CLSTR dev created successfully. The servers will now restart to apply new settings. Okay, so let's see if our server is restarting. Okay, let's check. So we'll go to servers. Here inside this, if you see, it is saying disconnected, right? It is saying disconnected, so it will automatically restart that. So we will just need to wait for some time and we will see them running. So it is saying disconnected. Let's go to, if you see, our server is now restarted and we have our server running. Very soon we will see it running. See, if you see, this is showing as running. And similar way, if you see, this is now showing as running, and here inside this inside the cluster, if we go and if we see the servers, both of them are showing as running, and server B is acting as the master. If you have some idea about cluster, server cluster, so there we have primary configure, primary server, then secondary server, something, or master slave. So that kind of concept is there. So here if you see, this particular one is considered as the master one. So just I'm giving some idea, like whenever we are saying we configure cluster, that time the master server is responsible for keeping the information for other members which are part of that particular cluster. So that is and the master, whenever some other computer needs some information about any other member in that cluster, so then it actually connects with master to get that details. So and that in that area, that unicast and multicast part comes into picture, but we will talk about that in other video. For now, we have this server A and server B running. Now what we will do is we will try to run our application to our cluster. So whenever we want to we deploy some application to the cluster, that time it automatically deploys that application to the to both the to the servers that are present or that are a member of that particular cluster. Okay, now I'll go to application, I'll say deploy application, and here if you see, this time it is showing us the cluster option. Earlier we already came to this particular page, and that time we were able to see individual servers. But here, because we have now placed our servers inside a cluster, that's the reason inside hybrid it is showing as the cluster instead of the individual servers. So what we will do is we'll select this cluster, and from here we'll give a name, and from here we would like to select our jar file that we already exported, and this is the one that we are going to use for now. So, and one more thing, this hybrid it is showing under hybrid. The reason is our Mule standalone runtime servers are running in our on-premise, right, in our computers. But the control plane, that is our Anypoint platform, and where we are actually trying to manage our servers using the runtime manager, so that control plane itself is residing on a cloud space, right? So on the cloud it is there. So that's the reason it is a mix up of our on-premise and uh, the it is a mix up of our on-premise and cloud, and that is the reason it is showing under hybrid. Okay, so we'll just select cluster dev, and here we will just type the name of our application. So we will say this one, we'll just take this name from here, and here we will go to this. So here is another option, get from sandbox, but we are not going to use that for now. So we'll just take this path, and we'll select choose file. So once we do that, it will give us upload files. So I'll just put our path here and select open, and from here we will um, select open. So once we do that, everything is already configured, but we need to click on this deploy application. So once we do that, so I'll just click on deploy application now. So once we do that, if you see, it says the proxy was uploaded successfully and is being deployed. So let's go to our server, and in the server also we can see it from here. If you see, this application was started, and similar thing is also showing up there in our this one. In our server 2 also we will have the same information available. So let's check that. If you see, the same application was automatically deployed to server B as well. So here currently we are in server B. Okay, if you see this one, so in server B also we have our application deployed now. And here if you see, it is saying load balancing YAML not found. That is different. This part we can skip it for now. But the purpose that we were thinking, that if we deploy an application to a cluster, then it gets automatically deployed to all the all the members of that particular cluster. So the servers that is present inside that cluster, those all will have that application deployed. Okay, so that is the thing we already have achieved now. So let's proceed. Okay, so now what we can do is, so inside, let's go inside this cluster, and if we go inside this server, automatically these things are coming up. So and if you see inside applications running on a server A, that is this one, right? So similar way, if we go to cluster and go inside server B, similar thing has come here. So, and also if you see DigiWorld proxy load balancing version 1, this particular application is running, it is started, right? So now, so far we have covered this particular disaster recovery configuration we have covered. Okay, so we are now ready to test our application. So in this case, if you see, our server A already running, this one, DigiWorld, this proxy load balancing, same application is running in server A, and the same application is also running in server B, and also we have our cluster in place, and we are ready with our disaster recovery setup. So let me tell you that the disaster recovery setup actually tells, like, in case, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, that the servers are actually placed in two different or more than two different geographical locations, and in case there is some earthquake or some natural disaster strikes to any of the geographical location, other servers which are there in other geographical locations, because those are also part of the cluster, and those are also having the same applications running. That's the reason those servers will be able to handle and serve the requests till the time the server which was down due to natural disaster earthquake, so till that server comes into running state, those other geographical location servers would be able to serve the request. So by doing that, the business won't be hampered that much, and the business would be running. So that way we can tackle, because nobody knows, right, that when any geographical location is going to get struck by any natural disaster or lightning or flood or something, earthquake, right? So that is the thing we try to achieve through our disaster recovery setup. So let's now go to our Apache HTTP server. So now if you see, we have this configuration in place. So we need to go to our Apache HTTP config, and there we need to update our load balancer, and we need to update that with this property, this latest IP address, and the port number also we need to update, right? So let's go to that. And okay, so before that, what we can do is we already have deployed our application to our server A and server B, right? So let's do one thing. Let's just test that before we actually go and change the our Apache HTTP server configuration. Before we do that, let's check if our application is running or not. I mean, we can get the response from our applications that are running in server A and server B or not, right? So 192.168 actually we need to press 0.105. So this is the one. Let's send the request, and if you see, wow, so that is cool, right? So 200 HTTP 200 we have received, and if you see, the response is coming back from the our this IP address. And similarly we will do, so I will just rename this one as part 3, because we are doing this as part of our I mean part 3 video. So I'll make it like this, and this time I'll put this one IP address also here in the name, so that we can understand that. And I'll save it, right? So I'll just, after saving that, I'll duplicate this one, and this time I'll make it as 104, that is our server B. And here in the server B, uh, so this is the IP address of our server. Oh, okay, I'm probably trying to update the wrong file. If you see, this one is selected, so I'll just close this one. I'll say don't save, and I'll open this one, and here only I will try to update. Okay, and here I'll make it as 104, and similarly I'll make it as 104. Okay, so this one, it was 104. Why it is 104? This particular one should be 105. I'll say don't save. 105 is there, however this one I need to make it 105. So now we are good, right? So 105, 105. So yeah, so if you see, on 192.168.0.105 we already have checked, and now we want to check 192.168.0.104.8081. So let's send the request, and let me tell you that this is going to another server, that is our server B, and from there it is, hold on, 192.168.0. Remote address. Oh, okay. This is remote address, so we don't need to worry about that. So this is the one. If you see, 192.168.0.104.8081, right? So that means both our servers are responding correctly. I mean, the application that we have deployed to our two servers, I mean the server A and server B, both are returning correct response. So we have already tested this part. Now we need to go to our Apache HTTP configuration, and there we need to see if our configuration is looking correct or not. Okay, so for that our final testing would be this one. So I will just so these two already we have tested. Now I will duplicate this one, and I will just take this, I'll rename this as part 3 and proxy and load balancing. And in this case we will try to see what we need to do. So we'll just go ahead, and inside this we have Apache HTTP server. And this thing we already if you have some doubt related to Apache HTTP server proxy and load balancing configuration, probably I would request please go through my video part 1 and part 2 for proxy and load balancing. So I will go to here, and I will open this file, and let's open this one, and we will go straight to the. Okay, so here a couple of things we can change. So here localhost we have mentioned. So instead of localhost we can mention it because if you see in this picture, this is the computer where we are also running our Apache HTTP server. So our Apache HTTP server is running inside server computer A. So that means the IP address for our Apache HTTP server, this proxy URL, and this localhost is also referring to 192.168.0.105. So we have for this demo we have two computers we are using, and inside server computer A we have our Mule standalone runtime server A, and inside server B we have our Mule server runtime server B. But our HTTP server also needs to run somewhere, right? For this case, for this demonstration, we are running the HTTP server from our computer, this particular server. So that is the reason our HTTP servers, this local host, can be replaced with the IP address 192.168.0.105. okay, and that is because this is the same computer where we are trying to do, right? 192.168.0.105. So let's do that. And if you see here, what I will do is 192.168.0.105, right? So that is the first thing we actually updated. So okay, and then we will go straight forward till the end, and there if you see the load balancer member and these two parts, so this thing we will update now. So balancer member, right? So our first balancer is okay. Let me update the port numbers first, because we don't have multiple port number now. We have only one port number, that is 8081. If you see the picture, we have only 8081 8081, right? So we will update that. So this is the why we have already updated these two things. Now this will be our server A address, 192.168 68.0.105, first one, right? Similarly, I'll just copy this one and I will put it here, and then this one will have port number one, last part as 104. So similar thing we will do here. So the proxy pass reverse, so this one will have 192.168.0.105, and this one will have 192.168.0.104, right? So that is it. That is what we need to do. I'll just go to file and I'll click save, right? So our Apache HTTP server is now ready to do the load balancing for these two servers. So if you see now, our Apache HTTP server is going to load balance the request to two different servers, right? Earlier we were having two instances of the server in the same computer, but this time we have two different computer itself. Okay, so let's go to our, okay, so now first let's run our HTTP server. So for that we'll go to bin and we'll type cmd and we will run Apache HTTP server. So for that we need to type httpd, that is it, and we'll press enter, and once we do that, if you see, this is the similar message we used to have earlier. So don't worry about this one. Now our server is running, and let's go to our this one. Let's go to our proxy and load balancing test, and here instead of local host we will mention 192.168 and 0.5, right? So that is the thing we will mention. Now, okay, so proxy and load balancing, in this part also I will mention this IP address so that we understand this, and this is 9000, right? All right, so we are good to go ahead. Let's send a request, and wow, that is great. And if you see, we have already received the response from this one, local address, this one, right? So the first one we have received response. Now let's send it, and this time let's check. Okay, again from this one. Oh wow, so if you see the local address is 104. So just make sure that you check this one, because this is the one will tell you where from the response is being served. Okay, so first one was sent to our server A. From here we received the response, and the second response was served by our server B, right? So let's send another request, and this time if you see the local address is 105, and let's send another request, and this time it is 104, right? So that is cool, right? Now we can see that whatever configuration we have set up here, that is working perfectly. And let me tell you that load balancing here by default, I think in the Apache HTTPD we have by default that round robin that algorithm selected. So for that one it is distributing the load like first one to the first server, then second one to the second server, again the third one to the first server. So similar way it is trying to distribute. So that load balancing algorithm, I think we can change that default part, but for now our purpose is to check if the load balancing is happening or not, right? And the proxy also happening. If you see, we are using IP address, and the port number is different, and even the service name is different. And so by doing that, the outside world, whoever is calling this particular Mule API, whatever we have deployed, this application we have deployed, so that application won't be able to know like what exactly is going on behind the proxy server, right? So that is the thing. All right, now we are good with our proxy and load balancing setup with multiple computers. Now let us test the disaster recovery setup. Okay, so now let's go to our Anypoint platform, and here inside this we have both of these servers running, right? Now what we will do is we will deliberately stop the server A. Okay, so this is our server A, where it is running. So our proxy, this is our Apache HTTP server that is running, and in the same server we have our server A, Mule standalone runtime server A running. This is the one. So what we will do is we will deliberately stop this one, and then we will try to check if we send the request to our proxy server, if it is able to serve the response or not, right? So let's do that. So I'll go to this one, and I will just select this, and I'll just select close. So once I did that, if you see, server A is now disconnected, right? It says server A is now disconnected. What is this? Server is now disconnected. Now though server A is disconnected, so let's say something some natural, I mean disaster happened to the geographical location where server A was running, and there once that is due to that natural disaster in that geographical location, server A become down due to some power cut or something like that. Server A is now down. but in that cluster server B is still running, right? If you see, server B is still running, and at the same time our proxy server is also running, Apache HTTP is also running. So let's now go to our this one and we will try to send the same request like we were sending to the proxy server earlier when both the servers were running. So now if we send the request, now if you see, it is taking some time, but still it is able to respond with 200 status, right? HTTP 200. And if you see, it is serving the request from the 192.168.0.104. So that means at this point of time our server A is not running and our server B is only running. And because we are sending our request, or let's say instead of postman there is one application, that is enterprise application, or let's say some website is trying to access this particular service, so it is sending the request to our proxy server URL. This is the one, and here it is sending, and our load balancer, that is Apache HTTP server, is successfully able to route the request to the running server, that is server B. So to this running server it is able to forward the route the request, and from here it was able to get the response. And let me tell you, the disaster recovery is actually controlled by our cluster. Okay, because of cluster only this thing is happening. Okay, now let's go to our postman and send another request. So if you see, this time also the second request was also served from 104. Again we will send the request, and the same thing would be served from our 104 only, because the another server is not running, right? So let's say we have this situation running for next 2 days, and after 2 days everything was somehow things were getting to normal, and the dedicated team was working for standalone runtime server A, and somehow they were able to up the server A now. So let's say our server A is now up. So what we will do is we will go to our this one Mule runtime server. So let's go to this one Mule runtime server A, and here what we will do is we will go to this one, and here we will just type cmd. We will type cmd, and here once it is open, we'll try to run our server, right? So what it is happening, so after 2 days, let's say after 2 days the dedicated team was working on that, everything was normal, and the dedicated team worked on this server, and they actually restored everything, and now we are ready to start the Mule runtime server A. Okay, so what we will do is we'll just type Mule and say select enter, and now if you see, our application is now this our server is now trying to start up. And once we do that, what we will check is, we will check if this entry gets automatically updated or not. So if you see, it has already now changed to connected, and now this time it is saying connected. Now after some time it will say running. So by doing that, if you see, now our application is also deployed to our server. Now our both the servers are running. Okay, so now we are back to the normal state. Now let's send the same request. So once we do that, the first request was served by 104. Now the second request is served by 105, right? So if you see, though there was something wrong at the MuleSoft side, the server was not running, that actually didn't affect anything to the business, because when I say business, that means I'm trying to refer that the outside application that is trying to access the MuleSoft services, it didn't notice anything wrong in the MuleSoft side, right? Because it is hidden from there, and because of our load balancing, the requests were served by our backup, I mean other servers which were part of that cluster. So this way we can handle the disaster recovery, I mean this unwanted situations where business can be hampered. So if you think, instead of running this two instances of server in two different computers, if you would have run only one instance, that time due to this computer failure, everything was stopped and the business would have hampered, because the application which was trying to access the MuleSoft services, it wouldn't have get the response because you were running only one instance. But because you were running two instances, that's the reason. Due to disaster, though one location was down, but other location, because other locations were running, that's the reason our outside applications, that means the consumers of this Mule application, those were not hit by this particular problem, and they were successfully able to run their business. Okay, so that is the one proxy and load balancing and disaster recovery setup. So this is how you can also try to do this and play around this property and other thing. So I hope this video is helpful. So I would request you to try to do this and try to play with these setups in your local or in your wherever you are working. So that is it. And if you really like this video, please do subscribe, do some comment, and in case you have some question, you can put it there in the comment. And in case you find this helpful for your learning, please, I would request, share this video with your colleagues, your friends, and that is it. So thank you so much for seeing this video, and see you with a new video on a new day. Thank you so much.